Welcome, everybody. My name's Philip Lehl. I'm the artistic director of Fourth Wall Theater Company. This is Beyond the Fourth Wall, a series of online sessions where we interview people who work with us or talk about Houston theater or sometimes other theater. And joining us today is Macy Lyne, who is the costume director for costume designer for The Lifespan of a Fact. Hi, Macy.
Hello. Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you to sit tight while I just tell people a couple of things. First, you can get tickets for The Lifespan of a Fact right now on our website, and you should because it's awesome. After that, we are bringing in a show called Random Acts by Renata Henrichs, which is a wonderful piece about civil rights and Renata's experience growing up in Chicago during the civil rights era. And after that, we have Gloria by Brendan Jacob Jenkins coming up. So get tickets to all of those. And with that, I say hello again to Macy Lyne.
Hello again.
So Macy, you have designed, I haven't counted, but a lot for Fourth Wall Theater Company, even back when we were Stark Naked Theater Company.
Yeah, a number of productions, yes.
You keep coming back, which means maybe you like us as much as we like you, or at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope so. I would like to just ask you real quickly, was there something about The Lifespan of a Fact that attracted you to the play immediately when we proposed it?
Well, I always find it fascinating. There's so much social media. Articles you read, always in the back of my mind, it's like, is this really the truth?
Yeah.
You know, is this really, are we getting all the facts? And the script was the way it broke down how a story or an article could actually be an essay as opposed to 100% of the facts. So that to me was fascinating.
So that was kind of the hook that you thought, oh yeah, I might like to work on this show.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. And so when you talk to Kim, the director, my wife, Kim Tobin-Lehl, directed the production, and she'll be on this show, whatever, this Zoom meeting.
Whatever this is.
But when you talk to Kim or some of the other designers, how did that idea that you just expressed, did that have an effect on your choices of clothes for these characters?
Yeah, I think so. You know, every sort of aspect of a story or deciding to design for a specific script or production, all of that kind of goes into the choices that are ultimately made. And this is a contemporary show, so, you know, it seems a little bit more tricky because everyone is an expert automatically because everyone wears clothing.
Oh, you mean like audience members, reviewers, etc.? Everybody's
everybody. Everybody. If you wear clothes, you're an expert. They automatically. So contemporary shows can be a little bit tricky, but yeah, I think every sort of idea or thought that goes into a script and every conversation you have with the design team, with the director, all of those ideas ultimately end up really making those decisions for you, for the characters.
Yeah.
Which is what I love so much about theater. It is a very collaborative effort.
Yeah. And so let's talk a little bit about one of these characters. And we have some photos from the production that maybe will come up. The character of Emily Penrose is she's an editor of a New York magazine. And but there are different kinds of magazines, right? And this is
Correct.
A literary magazine as opposed to, say, a fashion magazine like Vogue or something. So, when you decided what clothes were going to be on this character, I mean, were you thinking at first, oh, she should look like Meryl Streep in The Devil Wears Prada, or what? What were you thinking?
I think a lot of maybe the term that went around a lot was this is a casual environment, which was very telling as far as what the characters would ultimately wear. I mean, yes, she's a high power sort of executive woman, but the environment where she worked is a little bit more laid back. So yes, that definitely set, not, I guess, boundaries somewhat.
Yeah.
But it was ultimately that, I think it didn't have to be a super tailored suit, you know. These are executive pieces she's wearing, but at the end of the day, the magazine business itself was semi-casual. So they could be a little bit laid back as far as their attire goes.
Catherine, if we have some shots of Pamela Vogel plays Emily Penrose in our production. And so here's one look that she has. So yeah, this is not, you know, she's not in some dress by, you know, I don't know, does Gucci do dresses? Here's how
Prada? It's not like a Prada
right,
suit.
there you
or...
go. She's in a fairly sensible New York looking suit. And then she has another look later in the play. Well, and there she is on a weekend or something, right?
Right.
Yeah.
A little bit more casual because it is, I believe this shot takes place later in the week, maybe even on the Saturday. So
yeah. And then when she travels to Vegas, she's not worried about being in the office at all. Here she is, really casual.
More casual, more comfort. Correct. Yeah.
And so are you trying to tell a story by her moving from business to a midpoint to totally casual?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
I actually knew the answer to that question, but I thought that people might, you know, I don't really know who watches this. And so sometimes I think people don't realize that we think on that level.
Yes. Yes. And I think a lot of people don't really understand. I liked it when I'm teaching students, I give them this exercise where I have them close their eyes and I describe a person. And so, you know, I say, okay, what have you learned from this story before any even dialogue has been said? And we really tell a story visually with costumes and with all elements of the production before even any of the script is spoken. And I really love that aspect of theater because we are storytellers at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I love that exercise that you just described. Tell us where you teach, will you?
I am not currently teaching now, but I have taught at Lone Star College and San Jacinto College, among, you know, some other places. And I really like to go into, I have quite a few friends who teach at high schools. So I'll come and do my spiel of come be a costume designer. You know, this is what I do. This is what goes into it. And that's one of the exercises, you know, because I also want them to come and appreciate theater and think more about it.
Yeah.
That really a lot of thought, a lot of work and training goes into theater artistry. And if people can really hone into that and realize it, that makes great theater goers.
Yes, I'm glad we got onto this vein, and you know that you have taught and that you care about it. And obviously, you tell us where you studied theater, and you know, like what was your training?
My training is kind of funny. I started doing costumes ultimately because I sewed. I made my own clothes, not even knowing that you could make a living in theater or costuming per se. But when I was in college, I got a work study job in the costume shop. And it just opened up my mind, like, really, I can do this for a living. I can dress people up and get paid for it. So I have a bachelor's degree in apparel merchandising. So a very basic business degree, which is nice because now that I'm essentially a business owner, I own my own business. Those classes have come in handy. But once I was done with my undergrad, I stayed and I did my MFA in costume design at Utah State University. So yeah. And I never knew that I could actually do this for a living. So it's kind of very wild that I'm doing it.
Well, I like that story, and I like that something happened to you in college that pointed you in our direction. I don't think that's unusual for theater artists. A lot of people, I don't think, set out to be a theater costume designer when they're 12 years old,
Yeah. But I think the thing that I loved most about theater, I loved the theater department because it felt like a family. But the thing that I love about performing arts is the collaboration. Because even, you can do fashion all day, but you're really an individual making costumes for people, or not costumes, clothing for individuals. But in theater, you get to work with the directors, the set designer, lighting designer, props, and even sometimes, the playwright will come in. So it's so collaborative, and that is what really drew me into staying and working in theater, as opposed to business or fashion design.
As a freelance actor, I was never really privy to conversations that I've been privy to later in my life as I've become a director and a producer. And there are conversations that happen where the set designer will say, or the props and set will say, well, I think the wall's going to be tan, and the couch I've found is going to be, light green, and the costume designer will be like, yeah, I was thinking I was going to have this character in green, and I have them in green. They're going to, when they sit down on the couch, they're going to look like they're part of the couch. So we have to change that, and then people start talking about how they can change it, and I had no idea as a freelance actor how much went into making me as an actor look the best or the most appropriate or both that I could. That's
for the show.
And that collaboration that you're talking about can be and often is joyful and fun.
Yes, it should be if we're doing it right.
Oh God. Well, one of my favorite things that you ever designed for us was the Midsummer Night's Dream we did, where you costumed, I mean, everything was wonderful, but the fairies had this sort of, well, you tell me what the line was, what the fashion was. It was made out of, tell the people what you did there, because it was so good.
That is one of my favorite designs as well. I tend to be a designer. I don't like to keep very specifically period strict, and I don't know if that makes sense to anyone. So for Midsummer, we used the Victorian period as like a jumping off point, right?
Yeah.
So we did Victorian with a twist, and the fairies all ended up being they were corseted, a traditional Victorian corset with little tutus, and then they had these great tights and then ankle boots. There they are.
There we go. And all that,
and
all that material that they're forgive my the dress part of it was made out of was kind of like lace, and you did it. Maybe we gave you like $100 for each person or something crazy.
One of my favorite things is making costumes out of home goods, and I'm sure there were multiple curtains or tablecloths, all kinds of things that I found at the thrift store for very inexpensive and put into those fairies. So yeah, that definitely is one of my favorite designs. And I've designed a lot.
Yeah. There are two other things I love about that photo, and one is that Catherine Dunaway, our amazing, I'm going to call you the producer of this show, Catherine, found that photo as we were talking, even though
wow, yeah, that's very impressive.
The other thing I love is that the only man in that shot is Robert Meek, who did the sound design for Lifespan of Effect, and there he is.
He did.
As a fairy. in
'Cause he
Midsummer.
was one of the mechanicals, wasn't he as
He
well?
was, and he played Lyne, and he played a fairy, and he played the violin at one point in a tutu. He had a big beard. It was so
Yeah.
wonderful that I love
Yeah.
that. So, but yeah. Well, Macy, I don't know what you might have thought we were going to talk about, but we have just about used up our 15 minutes. Is there anything that you were thinking you might want to say? I'll give you a chance now.
I don't know. Of course I love working with Fourth Wall, and I'll come back anytime.
Awesome.
Anytime you'll
that.
have me.
I love that. Well,
yeah, it's just, I love doing theater. Houston's a great city for it. And I'm just beyond, grateful for the work and that I'm doing it.
People should know that, when you open a program in Houston, there's a good chance that Macy is going to be designing costumes, because she works all over town, and it's because she has an amazing eye and is really wonderful to work with. And
thank you.
I'm grateful that you like working with us. So
I appreciate it.
Well, we'll let you go, and I will get our next guest.
Perfect. All right. All righty. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, magically we're back, and with me now is my wife, my co-founder of Fourth Wall Theater Company, my pal, and the director of The Lifespan of a Fact. Hi, honey.
Hi.
Thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
So we're in the middle of the run of Lifespan of a Fact, and what are you most proud of our production?
Oh, whoosh, big question. Oh, let's see. Well, I think what's amazing about the production itself is how I was really impressed with how wonderfully the entire team came together and worked collaboratively to make a vision come together that we all felt like complemented every part of the crew and acting team of this production. I felt like sometimes people get a little prickly about their ideas being held onto or not let go of certain things. But this felt so collaborative and so smooth and so easy and so open to everyone exchanging ideas and making sure each person's needs and visions were fulfilled, so that the whole thing came together as something that all members of the design team and the acting team felt like they really settled into the piece as a collective, cohesive unit. That was really wonderful.
Yeah, that's very politic. It sounds like you're making it up to seem like it's.
I know,
but it's true. Like most shows, when I'm not involved, or even when I'm involved, Kim will come home, or we'll come home together, and she'll be like, "I'm quitting. You have to take over." But that didn't happen on this show.
No.
Not once.
Not once. I mean, I usually have something I'm butting my head against and that's art. I'm not saying that's unusual. I think everyone feels like they can't get their head around how to help an actor. They can't get a connection to a particular designer and how to jump a hurdle on how to make something come to realization. It's not a bad thing. It's just part of the process.
Yeah, artists do that. Well, who's the artist? Who's the actor who always calls her agent and tries to quit?
Julianne Moore.
Julianne Moore, apparently.
Apparently, that's what I heard her say.
She ever does, she at some point calls her agent and says, "You have to get me out of this. I
can't do this. I have to quit." Yeah.
And the agent knows that it's going to happen, and they have a conversation, and she goes back and gets an Oscar.
Right.
So
yeah, I think it's normal to feel like you're going to get into the muck and not be able to come to fruition in full realization of whatever it is you have to be able to do.
Well, and if you're taking a risk and you're being vulnerable in what your work is, then you're going to feel threatened or uneasy or uncomfortable, and after you've done it for a while, right, that means you're doing good work.
Yes, and usually one of the things that's hard about being the director, or the steerer of the ship, whatever you want to call it,
the decider,
or the person who ultimately has to make sure that that something comes into a collective agreement or manages to come to fruition in a way that works cleanly, in a positive and productive manner. You know, sometimes you have to push boundaries. You have to push someone in a way that they're not happy. They may fight you. They may struggle with you more than other times. Or someone outright doesn't want to do it. So you have to pick battles. You have to go, okay, well, I may not get this little morsel of something to go in a direction I think is the best direction, which maybe you're not even right, but you think it would work better for the whole team or something. And you give up on a particular battle and you move in another direction to make something else more cohesive.
Good. So I want to know, you've worked with two of the actors in The Lifespan of a Fact quite a bit, Pamela Vogel, who plays Emily, and Nick Farco, who plays John.
Yes.
But and so you had a history with those two.
Yeah.
But we'd never met the actor who's playing Jim,
Mhm.
Jack Goreski.
Mhm.
And we actually hadn't even met him in the flesh until he came for the first day of rehearsal, because we auditioned him on Zoom. Right. So what was that like?
Well, it's great. I mean, it's wonderful to know when you have, one of the things that's nice about hiring actors that is, when you've worked with them and they do great work, is you already kind of understand what their process is. So what you're going to have to work on, what you get to leave alone, how you need to communicate with them in order to help them find the things they need to find to give the best performance they're going to be able to give. You have a little bit of a shorthand already developed in regards to how to communicate to them what you need for them to be able to achieve. And also, when you don't need to bother them at all, oh, I don't need to even talk to them about that. I can see they're already working that out. You start to know them.
Right. Like when we worked together. We're laughing because we fight a lot when we work together. It's all good.
It's good. It's fine. And as married couples do. So, but Jack was wonderful. Oh, he was so wonderful. It's always exciting to work with someone new too, who's like Jack, who's super talented and super excited about being on board with a project, and comes in prepared, does his work, is ahead of schedule on deadlines, and then gets really on board and excited about wanting to learn and integrates that into his process. Because you know what? Hey, this is an opportunity for me to stretch my muscles and to maybe incorporate some new tools in my kit and figure out how to take myself to a level that's a little bit more than what I maybe knew before I came in the room. And he was so wonderful about that. And Nick and Pammy, as veterans, really were fantastic about being his teammates. They were teammates. They cheered him on. They got out of his way when they needed to get out of his way. They took him under the wing when they needed to take him under the wing. And it was a really wonderful family collaborative environment.
I was just going to ask, because did you think that Jack ever felt like, oh my God, I'm the outsider. Oh my God, these people have all worked together and they're not gonna, they're gonna look at me until I prove myself. They're gonna look at me like the new guy. I mean, I wasn't in rehearsal, so I don't know.
I hope he didn't feel like that. I think if he
You
did,
didn't think that he felt that way.
Yeah, I mean, he may have when he came in, and I hope we disarmed those fears very quickly. That's what my hope was. And he seemed to be he seems like he's having a great time now, and he feels very safe and comfortable in the role he's playing. And he's wonderful, you guys.
If you haven't seen Lifespan of a Fact, get a ticket now. And these three actors are really
they're wonderful together
in those parts. So you didn't get the idea that he was in that way at all at the beginning. But did you know that? Were you aware of that dynamic, like on the first day?
The first day, well, I mean, because I know Pammy and Nick, but I did feel like right away that he was very professional. He was very attentive, very receptive to information, to direction, to what was going to happen. And when I look for this in actors, when I hire actors, when I audition people, I look for them to be open and malleable and ready to try things and to step outside of preconceived notions of what they think they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Because as an actor, I know that I make up decisions about what my character's supposed to do, but I also understand that, oh, there's other characters in this play, and sometimes other characters have to come to an arc or to a storyline that has to come to realization that maybe the way I thought my character is supposed to be is going to inhibit that. And a director is going to adjust me so that we both have the best character arcs and story arcs. And if I didn't think about the other person, something I did may inhibit or get in the way of what the other person needs to do. So I have to be able to adjust.
So, and that, what you're talking about is a very mature sensibility. And I think Jack Goreski just graduated less than a year ago, I think, from the master's program at University of Houston. And I know when I first graduated from Juilliard, there was a certain part of me that was like, oh, now I want to go out into the real world and find out how the real professionals do it. But another part of me that was like, well, I went to graduate school, so I pretty much know everything. And you wonder what a young person like that is going to bring to a rehearsal.
Well, you don't know. And I think as a director, part of your job, especially with younger people, is to make them feel safe, is to make them understand that that you can't do the play without them. So you may be the leader, and like I said, the person who steers the ship and wants to get the best story possible out of everyone involved. But ultimately, if that person decides they're not going to participate in their job as a part of the crew of the ship's not going to sail.
Yeah.
So they have to be a part of that team. And my job is to make them understand that you wouldn't be on the ship if you couldn't do your job. If I didn't see that you could do your job when I hired you, you wouldn't even been part of this crew. So you don't have to prove anything to me. You just have to bring everything you are to the table. And I hopefully will help you celebrate that and even take it to bigger heights than what you thought you could do. And now some people come out of school, and I think I did this too, where they think they've been taught in school that you've developed what you are, the best thing you can be, and these tools that make you what you are, and don't let anybody mess with what your craft is and what you have to offer. So don't let them, you can be directed a certain way, but don't let them mess with how you do what you do.
Yeah.
And that can get in your way sometimes if you don't be careful. I did it too. And it took me a long time to learn that. And Jack didn't do that at all. And he was even open about talking about that. And I was so humbled by that honesty and that openness in that young man, that he would talk about, oh, I know I do this. This is something I do, and I don't want to do so much of that. And I was like, well, you just took care of that. And that's what, to me, humility and trying to strip yourself of your ego takes care of 85% of your problems. The rest is the director's part. Helping you move, walk, talk, and do things that real people do is the other part of your problem.
So that's awesome. And Jack, I hope you watch this.
I hope you do too, because we think you're great.
We're gonna have
and Pammy and Nick, we love you.
Yeah,
you know it.
Nick's going to be on in a minute,
good.
So we'll be able to, or I'll be able to tell him how much we love him. He already knows that.
Yeah.
I hope, and I hope Pammy does too. Is there anything you want to say about lifespan before we move on to another subject that you don't even know I'm going to talk about?
Oh, great. No, I just think if you can come to it. It's an hour and a half. It's really fun, great performances. It's fast. And it is something that's really wonderful subject matter for today, where you get to leave the theater and go out and talk about what you think about it. Facts versus, literary conceit for, the ability to influence what truth means to you by storytelling and how we mold our lives. And I think it's a really important subject in today's environment, and it doesn't give you a clear-cut answer at the end. So it leaves you some opportunity to go out and think and have the ability to have some critical thinking and abstract thought.
You can have a good fight.
And have a good fight about it, or a good spouse. Agreement. I don't know.
Never.
Okay.
Oh, my love.
Yes.
What else would you like to say before we turn to Nick Farco?
Yes. Well, I just want to thank everybody for coming and for watching the show, and most of all for coming out during this very, complicated time we have right now with all these variants of COVID and people taking their shots and being healthy and taking tests and coming out and supporting theater is so important right now, and your donations and your ticket purchases. We're really grateful, and we couldn't be here without you. So thanks for listening. Thanks for showing up, and we'll see you in the theater. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. I will just jump onto that. The ticket sales for Lifespan of a Fact are pretty darn good so far. And it seems to me that is a testament to the fact that people are feeling safe at Fourth Wall, the actors, the audience, everybody. So if that's standing in your way, I hope you'll consider taking a chance and coming out and wearing a mask and showing us your vaccination card and having a good time at the theater.
Yes, we're trying to do it right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
I love
Thanks.
you.
I love you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Welcome back, everybody. Now, by magic, here's Nick Farco. Welcome, Nick.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Nick is playing John 𝗘𝗽𝗀𝗃 in our production of The Lifespan of a Fact. And I think it's really fun for the people to know where you are right now and what time it is.
So it is currently about 2:43 p.m. here in Houston, and I am in the backstage area, dressing room area of Fourth Wall Theater. And we have a 3 p.m. matinee in about a quarter of an hour from now. And I'm sitting in front of the very beautiful custom-made, basically window unit that used to hang in the Fourth Wall Theater lobby, announcing, and basically giving homage to all of the wonderful donors that have made serious contributions on all different levels towards making Fourth Wall's continued existence and excellence possible.
Well,
so,
you went from the ridiculous to the sublime. That was awesome. That's our outmoded way of making our donors' names available to anybody who walks into our theater. And now we do it on a television monitor, which allows us to change things
and have a little more room in that lobby so you can house furniture for scene changes. Thank you, 15. So yeah,
this is so good. Yes, in 15
we
minutes.
already did fight call, so everything's good. And I did my health screening, so we're in good shape.
And you don't go on in this play until about what, 20 minutes have gone by?
It's a little bit less. It's usually somewhere between 14 and 15 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
So I have the first
We'll
bit.
let you go. We'll let you go.
No worries.
Yeah.
No worries.
Great. Well, Nick, it's great that you're here because you've been a mainstay at Fourth Wall. I think I can call you that. How many shows have you done with Fourth Wall?
I think this will be. I think it's either, well, if you don't count readings, and developmental things, I think it's like either 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Like Small Mouth Sounds, and I did True West, and I did Reckless, and I did Rapture, Blister, Burn. So that will make this 5 then, I guess. Yeah. That's 5.
Well, that's that, and we've known.
Yeah,
you
no, I'm super grateful for it. It's been amazing.
6 or 7 years, so you're here at least pretty much
at least once a year usually.
Yeah. Well, we're grateful. We're grateful that you want to keep working with us.
Of course.
I love your performance in this play. Tell us a little bit about who John 𝗘𝗽𝗀𝗃. John 𝗘𝗽𝗃 is a real guy, so but he's also a character in a play. So talk a little bit about the character of John 𝗘𝗽𝗃 first, and then maybe we'll talk about the real guy.
Sure. So John 𝗘𝗽𝗃, the character, in circumstances of the theatricalized version of this story, it's obviously everything becomes more immediate. That I, as playing John, I'll talk about it as me because that's just how I do it. I don't know, just works for me. So John, I have been writing for many, many years. That was always my focus and what I believe in, and a big torch that I sort of carry, something that I constantly am trying to advocate for is to define what the essay, the nonfiction based essay format, so that there are different within this huge category of writing about real life events and providing perspective or context to portray a time and place in our world. John 𝗕𝗏𝗃, the real John 𝗕𝗏𝗃, and the character are both really, really passionate about making sure that people understand that in order to get to the truth of events that occur in a specific time and place under certain circumstances, there is an art to it. There is a creativity to it. There is a personal connection where the artist serves as a vessel to interpret these events, and without completely changing or altering what actually happens, frame and portray the events in a way that will communicate and have the truth hit the reader in a very specific way. And I'm sort of fighting against the changing of the times and how the presence of the internet and the constant the constant expansion of social media outlets and online forums and people that are just dissecting everything that anyone puts out in the world and trying to discredit it or disprove it or celebrate it or promote it. It's just become a whole different landscape that I don't think anybody can really comprehend. It's too big. Yeah.
This, what you're describing is a theme of the play that I think it gets unnoticed a little bit in what I've read about the play that's out there, is this idea that writing an essay was one thing before the internet. And now with all the stuff that you just described, it's just a different thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that goes into like the main thing that we focus on the play, where that, knowing about where I'm coming from, as I just described as the writer, and how I've been writing and how I learned to write on what I'm passionate about. I'm now living in a world where when I write a story, it's really about the facts need to be represented in a way, I'm being told, that is devoid of any sort of curating. You can't curate the facts. You can't change anything that you're thinking about. You can't curate. You can't choose. You can't frame. You can't present in an artful way. You're supposed to just, it's like an old movie, like just the facts, please. You have to do just that. And I'm passionately and demonstratively against that happening, because it takes all the color, all the romance, all the nuance, all the ambiguity, all the way for the reader or the viewer, in whatever medium it is, to fill in from their own individual perspective. That's being removed, and we're becoming devoid of that as human beings. We're losing a part of the fabric of our culture and of our existence. Yeah, I don't know.
I love that. And I hadn't thought too much about that. And I found myself thinking a little bit as you were talking. I was listening to you, but thinking about
no, it's okay.
Yeah, but I mean,
that's what this play is supposed to do. It's supposed to make you think, and that's okay. I mean, we want that.
Yeah, but I was thinking about, how the internet has changed essays at first, and listening to what you were saying, and then thinking about, wow, it's had an effect on movies. Now movies, you used to read a review maybe in your hometown paper, but now you can read every review, and you can even go to a website where those reviews are aggregated and tabulated into a percentage. I'm talking about something like Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
I think people, don't even read the reviews anymore. So the internet has changed the way we look at and consume certainly movies, music. I don't know. I wonder if theater has fallen prey to that as much as other arts or dance, or I don't know.
Well, I certainly feel like it's starting to a little bit because, reviewers used to be about giving the audience, potential audience, an idea about what the show or the play or the musical, what the plot was, what it was about, what its themes were, and then actually giving, specific subjective feedback or observations. Thank you, Five. About like their opinions about the performances or the scenic elements. And
I have to, excuse me, Nick, I have to jump in because if you're not a theater person and you're watching this, what just happened is the stage manager just told Nick and the other actors that in 5 minutes the play would be beginning and they better be ready. And that's why Nick said, thank you, Five. He's acknowledging that he heard that and he'll be ready in 5 minutes and not talking to me anymore. Would you like to continue or shall we talk about another aspect?
No, we can talk about whatever's most entertaining. I mean, I want people to listen. I hope you'll edit this.
No way.
I didn't have any copies of the questions ahead of the time, so.
No, you sure did. We're doing this on the fly. Oh gosh.
I streamlined them, so please, whoever's editing this, make sure that they're concise, more concise than I am. But yeah, I mean, this play, I mean, it just goes back, and there's something that we talked about the other day with the student talk back with the Kincaid School who was here, which was wonderful.
Yeah.
And we're asking about, like, do you find yourself getting, as an actor, caught up in your character's point of view? And, and I thought about it a bunch, and I was thinking, well, yeah, I totally do. You have to buy into your character's point of view, specifically moment to moment. But it also made me think about the fact that one of the major things of this play is, like, the audience is sitting there, and just like everything else, seemingly in our society these days, it's becoming divisive. It's inviting people or pressuring people to make a choice one way or another, as if we are like toddlers who can only choose between, two flavors of ice cream. And really, you don't have to side 100% with my character, with John 𝗘𝗏𝗀, and you don't have to 100% side with Jack's character, Jim Fingal. You don't always have to be all one way or all the other. And it's like so overly simplistic, and as if there's only, like, two tribes you can join in any given situation. And that, I think, is an important theme that's on here too.
I love that.
Realize they're sitting there, they're watching the play, and they're going, well, am I supposed to choose? Well, I'm confused. And it's like, well, yeah, you should be confused. Things are confusing. So don't oversimplify them. Stop oversimplifying everything.
These amazing machines that have let us do this interview, for instance, or have, on online presence and friends who live in Timbuktu, after all, is built on a system of zeros and ones.
Yeah.
It's one or the other. And
right.
Perhaps we can't escape that. And perhaps the machines are leading us into that, even though they allow us great flexibility, it seems. I don't know.
What I think is, no, I totally agree with that. And that makes me think about sort of things that become at play here, is that, I, as John, at some point with my editor, who I greatly respect, and she has nothing but integrity, for the art form, for being a journalist, for presenting, writing and art to the world. She's asking me to make concessions. She's asking me to change things in my creation to sort of play ball with how things are changing and how the world is. And it takes a lot to get there, but I think that also could be something that we might entertain, is that, like, yeah, you might be very passionately in opposition to another way of thinking. But if you take the time to listen, as I listened to Jim and to Emily talk to me, something will get through, something get in. And then it's like, well, I might not like it. Certainly not at first, because it's new or it's different or it's not what I believe in. That I have to be willing to listen, and I have to be willing to in some ways be realistic, to accept the changes that are happening in the world, rather than just be in denial or willfully ignorant of,
I'm going to jump in because you kind of known this, but earlier Kim and I were talking, and we were talking about what happens in the artistic process, as we were talking about directing and acting a little bit, but the idea that when you get vulnerable and as you say, let a new idea in, it doesn't feel good. It feels uncomfortable, but we all know that that's when the artistic process is really starting to happen.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's so confusing to me as an ever-changing human being in this world, is that, like, I mean, as someone who's a teacher as well, and has taught college and high school and, kids of all ages and stuff, like we were constantly telling them that in order to grow, in order to learn, in order to improve, or to see something better or understand something better, that they have to go through a period always of discomfort, of struggle, of, it's difficult to change or grow.
Yeah.
But now when we as adults get to a certain age, I think a lot of us believe, well, I'm grown now. Now I can just sort of stay in my lane and not, I don't want to deal with that anymore. I remember what it was like when I was a kid or younger to have to go through all that comfort and struggle. And it's like,
do I really want to put myself in that position again? Do I really want to admit that I haven't grown as far as I can grow? Yeah, of course I do, but it's hard.
It does come down to ego. I mean, there is a lot of ego, whether it be as a young person or an older person, a person of all ages. There's ego, there's how you were raised, and your moral and ethical principles that you have as a person, or from your family, or from your upbringing, or there's just so many factors that go into it. I think people just get overwhelmed by that, and they say, well, it's easier just to not listen. It's easier just to not change, and I now that's what I preach even more to my kids, is that, not preach, but I try to instill in them. I try to encourage them to think for themselves and to be accepting of change, and to not expect everything to always be a pleasant feeling. You can appreciate sadness and unpleasantness and discomfort and be grateful for it just as much as you are for happiness and joy and elation and, accomplishment. Like these other things, we need these things too.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Nick, you need to go do a play. I know that Places hasn't been called, but I want to let you get your brain back into that. Thank you so much for spending this 15 or 20 minutes with me today during your preparation time for Lifespan of Effect.
Thank you for listening. Anybody who is, thank you so much.
Once again, my name is Philip Lehl. I am the artistic director of Fourth Wall Theater Company. I'd like to thank Catherine Dunaway for helping us bring this to you. I'd like to thank our guests, Macy Lynn, my wife, Kim Tobin-Lehl, and Nick Farco for joining us. And I would like to exhort you, if you haven't already, to go see The Lifespan of a Fact at Fourth Wall Theater Company. Go see Random Acts, go see Gloria, go see Between Riverside and Crazy. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
Beyond the Fourth Wall is produced by Fourth Wall Theater Company, Houston's home for extraordinary performances up close. Each guest is paid for their appearance on this series, in accordance with our mission to pay artists a living wage. Follow the links in the video description to learn more about Fourth Wall, to purchase tickets, or to make a tax-deductible donation.